On May 22nd, 2025, something quiet but incredibly meaningful unfolds in the sky. As the world stills in those early morning hours and the horizon holds its breath before the first light, the moon, in its graceful descent toward newness, moves into close alignment with Saturn, the wise and steady sentinel of the solar system. While to many this might appear as just another astronomical event, something to glance at and forget, those who understand the deeper language of the cosmos know this moment carries significance far beyond the visual beauty. This celestial embrace between the moon and Saturn whispers ancient truths to anyone still enough to listen. When the waning crescent moon meets Saturn in the pre-dawn sky, we are gifted with an energetic metaphor that's both poetic and instructive. The moon represents the intimate, the emotional, the internal tides we navigate, our dreams, our vulnerabilities, our capacity to nurture, remember, and feel. It is soft, reflective, changeable. Saturn, in contrast, is the planet of structure, responsibility, boundaries, and endurance. It is the slow-moving force that compels us to mature, to take accountability, to learn the deeper lessons of time. When these two celestial bodies converge, we're not just looking at a moment of beauty, we're standing at the edge of an opportunity to reconcile the parts of ourselves that often seem at odds. This conjunction asks us to consider the relationship between our emotions and our responsibilities. It encourages us to ask questions like, where have I allowed my emotions to go unstructured, uncontrolled? Where have I allowed discipline to harden me, to suppress what I feel? This is a moment of alchemy, a gentle invitation to bring order to our inner world without sacrificing softness. It's a chance to integrate wisdom into our emotional habits. The moon says, feel this. Saturn says, grow from this. Together they create a space where feeling and maturity meet, a sacred intersection between healing and mastery. Energetically, the waning crescent moon is always a time of release, reflection, and surrender. It's the phase just before rebirth, where we are invited to let go of what we've carried for too long. When this energy meets the presence of Saturn, the message becomes clear. It is time to release old emotional patterns that have become rigid, outdated, or burdensome. Not from a place of rejection, but from a place of love and evolution. Saturn doesn't ask us to discard our emotions. It asks us to mature them, to find the wisdom in them, to learn how to hold them with strength and grace. This meeting in the sky is not a loud one. It's subtle, like a quiet conversation between two elders of the soul. But its effects can be profound, especially for those who are willing to slow down and tune in. You may find that emotions you've been carrying resurface, not to overwhelm you, but to be acknowledged, understood, and finally released. You may be shown where you've needed firmer boundaries or where your inner world craves more structure so that it can actually support you rather than consume you. This is the kind of energy that invites journaling, meditation, or simply a moment of honest reflection under the stars. You may not receive immediate clarity, but you will be gifted a deeper sense of alignment if you allow the process to unfold naturally. In ancient astrology, Saturn was often viewed as the great teacher. It is not a planet of punishment, but of profound growth. When it touches the moon, our emotional body becomes the student and life becomes the classroom. This transit asks you to take your feelings seriously, not dramatically, but with reverence. It's a reminder that emotional maturity is not about denial or repression. It's about holding yourself with kindness while still choosing the path that requires discipline, truth, and personal responsibility. This is a time to honor your needs without becoming enslaved to them, and to structure your life in a way that supports emotional well-being without overindulging in escapism or stagnation. At the collective level, this conjunction also mirrors a societal need to balance emotional intelligence with responsibility. As the moon draws our attention inward and Saturn points us towards structure and accountability, we are encouraged to consider how our communities handle grief, sensitivity, and emotional expression. Are we cultivating spaces where people are allowed to feel and also to heal responsibly? Are we raising generations that understand how to navigate their inner world with strength and grace, rather than avoidance and blame? This moment becomes a symbolic reflection for all of us, calling us to be better stewards of both our emotions and our collective responsibilities. From a practical perspective, you may feel an intuitive nudge today to reevaluate your emotional habits, especially those tied to past wounds, family dynamics, or long-standing fears. Saturn often triggers ancestral themes, asking us to consider what emotional legacies we inherited and whether it's time to break a cycle. The moon, being tied to memory, may surface forgotten feelings or subconscious beliefs that have shaped your behaviors more than you realized. Let them rise, let them be seen, and then, with the wisdom of Saturn, decide which ones are still worthy of space in your life and which ones are ready to be laid to rest. It's also a powerful time to recommit to self-discipline, especially in areas where emotional avoidance has prevented progress. Whether it's a creative project that's been sitting unfinished due to fear of imperfection, or a conversation you've avoided because of emotional discomfort, this conjunction offers the support needed to move forward with quiet strength. The message is clear: it's time to grow, not through force, but through conscious intention. There is something sacred about witnessing the moon and Saturn come together in the sky. It reminds us that the soul's evolution doesn't come from bypassing pain, it comes from learning how to carry it wisely. It reminds us that our dreams are worth anchoring into reality, and our emotions are worth honoring, even when they challenge us to mature. This is a moment for gentle inner discipline, for setting clear emotional intentions, and for walking forward with a steadier, more centered heart. As the moon's soft, ephemeral glow drifts towards Saturn's unwavering, steady presence in the pre-dawn sky, something deeper than visual beauty unfolds within us. This meeting is not random, it is synchronistic. The energies represented by these celestial bodies are inviting a subtle, yet significant recalibration. The moon asks us to feel, to sense, to intuit. Saturn asks us to reflect, to take responsibility, to act with maturity. When the two align even briefly, we are handed an opportunity, a sacred moment to check in with ourselves and examine the harmony or dissonance between what we feel and how we live. This alignment doesn't just draw us into a conversation about our inner world. It asks how that inner world is reflected in our outer structure. Do the lives we lead support our emotional truth? Have the responsibilities we've taken on grown so heavy that they silence our intuition? Or have we drifted so far into feeling without foundation that we lack the structure to build anything lasting? The Moon and Saturn meeting like this is a cosmic mirror, asking each of us to look more honestly at the ways we've built our days, our habits, our commitments, and whether those things still nourish the emotional landscape we carry within. It's a rare moment when the energies of discipline and emotion meet in quiet harmony. The moon, in its waning crescent phase, is already an invitation to reflect, to withdraw, to soften, and to release. It's the last breath before a new lunar cycle begins. It carries the wisdom of what has been and the gentle whisper of what could be. It's a time to let go, not in haste, but in reverence. To review what we've held onto too tightly, to release what no longer serves, to grieve if needed, and to exhale what we've outgrown. Saturn's influence intensifies this. It doesn't just ask us to let go, it asks us to take that letting go seriously. It says, take responsibility for what you carry, acknowledge what you're still holding from the past, and ask yourself why. This planetary alignment becomes especially powerful when we recognize that Saturn does not operate in the short term. It's a teacher of time, of cycles that stretch across seasons and years, not just days. So when it touches the moon, it's not just amplifying a fleeting emotion, it's bringing long-term emotional patterns into focus. You might feel a sudden clarity about a recurring theme in your relationships. You may see with fresh eyes a habit of self-denial or avoidance you've carried since childhood. These insights are not here to overwhelm, they're here to free you. When you see a pattern clearly, you reclaim your power to change it. And this is where the work begins. Not dramatic, not loud, but soul deep. Saturn doesn't promise quick fixes, it honors devotion. So the changes you're being called to make now may be subtle. They may start with a shift in how you speak to yourself, how you hold your boundaries, how you prioritize rest, how you choose to respond instead of react. They may begin as a realization that your emotional needs deserve as much structure and planning as your daily to-do list. These are the kinds of changes that, though small, ripple outward with time, slowly transforming your foundation, your relationships, your sense of self. There is also a sacred lesson here about stillness. We live in a world that celebrates action, ambition, and progress. But this conjunction reminds us that wisdom is often born in the pause. That truth reveals itself in silence, that some of the most essential work we will ever do happens in the quiet of our own hearts. Saturn reminds us not to rush. The moon reminds us not to numb. Together, they ask us to sit still with our truth, not to fix it, not to hide it, but to simply be with it until we understand what it's trying to teach us. It's natural to feel a sense of heaviness around this time. When Saturn touches the moon, it can bring old grief to the surface. It can remind us of what hasn't healed, what still aches, what still feels unfinished. But this isn't a punishment. This is grace. Because sometimes we need to feel the weight of what we carry in order to finally lay it down. This moment is not asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to be honest, to look inward with courage and ask, where have I abandoned myself in the name of being responsible for others? Where have I stayed silent when I needed to speak my truth? Where have I ignored my emotional well-being in pursuit of achievement or control? The answers may not come immediately, but even asking the questions begins to open the space for healing. You're not being called to have all the solutions. You're being called to make room for them, to be patient with yourself, to trust that whatever arises in this space is meant to be felt, acknowledged, and integrated, not judged or suppressed. You're being asked to become a more grounded version of yourself, not harder, not colder, but more aligned. And alignment is the key, because when your emotional life is aligned with your responsibilities, when your inner truth is honored in the structure of your outer world, you begin to live in integrity. And living in integrity is one of the most liberating, empowering states you can ever experience. It's not about having no pain. It's about no longer lying to yourself about where that pain lives and what it's trying to show you. This is a sacred invitation from the cosmos, a moment of stillness, reflection, and wisdom, a time to reassess, a time to realign, a time to gently bring the tender world of your emotions into harmony with the steady rhythm of your commitments. Because when you do, you become a force of clarity and calm in a world that desperately needs both. For those who walk in rhythm with the universe, who listen not just with their ears, but with their hearts, this celestial convergence of the Moon and Saturn is more than a spectacle. It is an invitation to go inward, to pause the noise of the world and ask yourself what truly matters. When these two cosmic bodies align, they don't shout for your attention. They whisper softly but powerfully, nudging your soul to realign with truth. It's a moment of reflection that asks not what can you achieve, but what are you ready to release? What emotional burdens are you still carrying that have silently shaped your choices, your relationships, your self-worth? These are the questions that rise in the early hours, gently but persistently. This is not about forcing clarity or rushing to fix. It's about acknowledging what no longer serves and being willing, finally, to let it go. Maybe it's an old narrative about your worth that was never really yours. Maybe it's a pattern of self-doubt you've inherited, internalized, and repeated without question. Saturn's presence says, it's time to see this clearly. The moon responds, it's safe to feel this fully. Together, they create a sacred container in which healing is not only possible, it's inevitable if you're willing to surrender to it. And with healing comes the next essential step, rebuilding. Saturn, ever the architect of the soul, doesn't ask you to live without structure. In fact, it insists on it, but the right kind. The kind that supports you rather than confines you. This is the perfect time to look at the frameworks of your life. How is your day structured? What routines support your peace? What boundaries uphold your emotional safety? Are you showing up for your needs in the same way you show up for others? Are your habits reinforcing the life you say you want to live, or are they silently pulling you away from it? These are not small questions. They are the foundation of your future. This alignment between the Moon and Saturn offers a unique kind of clarity, one that is emotional, yes, but also deeply practical. It bridges the space between intention and execution, between feeling and form. You may feel drawn to restructure areas of your life that have grown chaotic or overly rigid. You might find yourself intuitively rewriting the rules you've lived by, not because they were wrong, but because they no longer fit who you are becoming. That is the gift of this moment. It honors the past, but it doesn't let you live there. It calls you forward, gently but firmly, into a space where emotion and maturity can coexist, where softness is not weakness and structure is not control. It is devotion. So when you look up and see the waning moon near Saturn, don't just admire the beauty, feel into what it stirs inside you. That sensation of quiet awe, that reflective pause, is not random. It's resonance. The sky is speaking a language your soul has always understood. It is reminding you that your inner world is not separate from the cosmos, it is a reflection of it. Just as the moon follows its phases and Saturn moves in cycles, so do you. There is a time to expand and a time to retreat. A time to dream and a time to build, a time to feel deeply and a time to create boundaries that protect those feelings. This is your time to do both. Let this alignment inspire not just a moment of peace, but a commitment to balance, real balance. Not perfection, not control, but the kind of balance that honors your emotions without letting them govern your life, and honors your responsibilities without letting them drown your spirit. Balance that says, I can feel this fully and still show up for myself. That is emotional maturity. That is soul integrity. That is what this Moon-Saturn moment is here to awaken in you. It may be helpful to spend a few moments in silence today, early in the morning if possible, when the sky is still holding the residue of this sacred meeting. Let yourself sit beneath the stars or simply by a window and breathe. Not to figure anything out, but to feel the alignment, to feel the stillness, to feel your own presence, your own weight, your own truth. And as you breathe, let go. Let go of the guilt for not having figured it all out. Let go of the shame for the feelings you've buried. Let go of the belief that you must carry it all alone. Saturn doesn't ask you to carry more. It asks you to carry with intention. The moon doesn't ask you to stop feeling. It asks you to feel with compassion. This is the alchemy of this moment. It is a sacred weaving of your emotional world with your structural reality. A reminder that you can build a life that feels good inside, not just looks good from the outside, that you can live in integrity with your feelings while still creating something lasting and strong. That your inner softness is not a flaw to fix, but a gift to honor. So if something stirs in you today, if an old wound surfaces or a new vision emerges, listen. The cosmos doesn't move without meaning. This is your invitation to come back to yourself, to take what you've learned, what you've felt, and begin to shape it into something solid, something sacred, something that can hold you as you continue to grow. Because that's what this moment is for. Not endings, but foundations. The quiet beginning of something deeply aligned, built not from fear or pressure, but from presence and truth. Remember, the universe never shouts. It communicates in whispers, subtle signs, gentle nudges, and quiet moments of stillness that invite us to pause and listen. On May 22nd, this language becomes especially clear through the delicate convergence of the Moon and Saturn. This is not just a meeting of celestial bodies. It is a sacred dialogue between the emotional and the structural, between the heart's vulnerability and the mind's discipline. The sky is offering you an opportunity to attune yourself to this harmony, to slow down enough to feel the interplay of these energies within your own being. As you move through this day, allow yourself to become present to the subtle messages woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Notice how your emotions respond to the steadying influence of Saturn, and how your mind might soften in the presence of the moon's gentle glow. This is a moment to balance feeling with wisdom, intuition with responsibility, to recognize that true strength is found not in suppression or rigidity, but in the graceful integration of our inner world with the outer demands of life. Let the quiet power of this alignment inspire you to reflect deeply on your own journey, on the patterns you carry, the emotions you've held close, and the structures you've built around yourself for safety or survival. This is a cosmic call to realign where needed, to release what weighs you down, and to reinforce the foundations that support your growth and well-being. It is a chance to create a life where your emotional truth is honored and your responsibilities are carried with integrity and compassion. As you gaze upward into the early morning sky and witness the waning crescent moon near the ringed giant Saturn, feel the profound connection between the universe and your soul. Let this celestial moment be a reminder that you are not separate from the cosmos, that the rhythms of the heavens are reflected in the rhythms of your heart and mind. In the stillness of this night, find peace in knowing that you are held within a vast, intelligent design, and that your path, with all its challenges and triumphs, is part of a greater unfolding. Allow this moment to deepen your commitment to balance and harmony, to live with awareness that embraces both softness and strength, emotion and logic, surrender and discipline. The universe is inviting you to align yourself with its rhythms, not as a passive observer, but as an active participant in the sacred dance of life. This is your invitation to listen closely, to feel deeply, and to step forward with quiet confidence, knowing that the cosmos is guiding you gently but surely toward your highest good. Embrace this day as a sacred opportunity to reconnect to yourself, to the universe, and to the harmonious balance that exists within all things. Let the whisper of the Moon and Saturn be a steadying hand on your journey, guiding you toward wholeness, peace, and profound inner wisdom.